Yeah, this smells like fig Newtons and fermentation. And there's actual debate about whether this blend is topped with rum. It isn't. I think I know what's going on. I made a poll a couple of days ago asking which I should review next. Ellipsis Flake was winning at the time with 2 votes because nobody knew about my channel. Bob's Chocolate Flake has since taken the lead, and I'll get to it, but I'd already started doing the research on this one, so I'm carrying on with it. So, Ellipsis Flake, the 4th entry in the Zeitgeist collection from Pease. I got this one off of Smoking Pipes, but it's available anywhere that carries GLPs, like Four Noggins, plenty of others. I've seen it in shops in Virginia and DC, across the Northeast. This is definitely one of the more available blends. I paid around $14 or $15, which is typically what you'd pay for any CND or GLP blend, which is a change from the last review, where the whole story was that you couldn't get it. It's probably very easy to get for anyone in the United States or anyone with a dedicated pipe shop nearby. Otherwise, you can order it online relatively cheaply, depending on which state or country you're in. The tin art is some of the best I've ever seen. The dancers with the tobacco leaf dresses. In a genre where everything is dark and dim and rustic, having this bright blue sunny tin art makes it really appealing. It prepares you for something unexpected. So reading Pease's description going in, natural sweetness mingling with notes of citrus and a backdrop of rich Virginias, a burly dreamscape of flavors. What I'm expecting is sweet and nutty. He mentions Perique, so I'm expecting that to complement the Virginias and make it a fruity sweetness. And the Izmir, I expect to add complexity, a little bit of that oiliness that's present on Oriental leaf. Fig Newtons and fermentation, that's the best way I can put it. It's definitely sweet, and when you first smell it, your expectation is that this is topped with something. It's strongly sweet and fruity. It probably even smells a bit boozy. I'm getting fermented fruit, slight hints of vinegar. It's really intriguing, exciting smell. It's almost a fermented chocolate raspberry, that level of sweetness with a little fermentation behind it. You're going to get very few flakes that are well assembled. I assume from packing a lot of them fall apart, so what I have now is effectively a broken flake having rummaged through them. This is not OGS. Don't go into this expecting that crisp, clean, uniform flake. This is closer to the CND style of what gets labeled flake, more put together than a broken flake, but a few of them resemble the whole plug sliced. Moisture was pretty good. It could use some dry time. That said, if you enjoy smoking things on the wetter side, that's completely fine too. Greg Pease describes this as natural sweetness, natural tobacco. Further down his site, writing about another flake, I think Regents, he says explicitly without toppings or casings. So given that I smell sweetness and he calls it natural, my best guess is this is untopped and uncased. So why does it smell like wine? I have a few ideas. One is the Perique. As it's pressed, it likely imparts some of that fermentation character. And then the second thing is the pressing itself. Perique is fermented anaerobically. It also comes to the blender still moist and still active. Press that against a high sugar Virginia, and there may be fermentation chemistry that hasn't completely finished. The third potential cause for this wine smell is the Black Cavendish. The Black Cavendish is added for sweetness, and nobody mentions it. Everyone goes to Virginias for sweetness and Cavendish for creaminess. Unsweetened chocolate milk is what the term people use, but I think all three are probably likely players, and since they're pressed together, that's likely the cause of it. But hold on to that thought, I'll come back to it with an actual paper at the end. I'm usually a fold and stuff kind of guy like I mentioned before, but I'm going to rub this out slightly. I want a relatively uniform burn. The benefits of pressed tobacco and the fermentation have already happened, so now I just want an even burn. I'm smoking out of my Peterson 314. It's an estate pipe. Most of mine are, mainly because I have no money. Yes, there's some rim char on it. It smokes just fine. You'll notice I've got the vinyl softy bit on here. I don't want to buy the real ones, and I'm tired of fixing estate pipes with bite marks. So on the char light, pretty woody. I wasn't expecting to taste the Orientals here, but there are Burleys in this too, so some of that complexity is probably coming from them. For the true light, you're getting fruit and you're getting the woodiness still. A mix of woodiness and fruit that I don't typically get from many blends. I'm attributing the woodiness to the Burleys mixed with the Orientals, a mellow, organic, nutty woodiness. And the fruit is a mix. The Virginias for the citrus, an almost tart, like sourdough, and the Perique for the plum, dark fruit, fig, prune essence underneath the citrus, and a little bit of spice. I'm not sure how much of this is Perique, but it's pleasant. It's not sinus clearing, it's not intense, it's still fruity. We're still getting a hint of acid from the Virginias, and by acid I don't mean risk of tongue bite. None of that at all. I've never gotten tongue bite from this blend. For the second third, it's still fruity. A hint more of the spice, as typical with anything with Perique, but it's still citrusy and tart, probably the Virginias. The woodiness is less prominent now, the nuttiness too. The flake is dark, which I attribute to moisture naturally in the Cavendish and the Perique, though I'm conscious that it's all pressed together and that's likely a part of why it looks like that. The ash is burning average cleanliness. Some of it is white, obviously not as shockingly white as the Sun Bear. Moisture is hard to judge. This is a system pipe, so the reservoir catches a lot of it. The woodiness isn't on the tip of the tongue like the other flavors. It's in the retrohale, a nuance behind the fruitiness which is really pleasant. This is remarkably well blended. There are a lot of straight vapors that are sweet and fruity, maybe with a bit more Perique for a kick. This is not trying to be that. This is an amalgamation of everything Pease wanted here. Whether it's worth buying, I'll get into. First, the thing I found interesting enough to go looking for a paper about. The Izmir in this is the same varietal as the one used in most other C&D or GLP's blends. I actually emailed Jeremy Reeves about this. The grades they use across all of these lines and sublines are generally the same, except for obviously small batches or limited releases. So Cornell and Deal, Seattle Pipe Club, a huge list of blends that otherwise would have been shut down or absorbed. What changes between the lines is the blending, and that makes you appreciate what Pease put together. It's the same exact ingredients, it's just a different touch, a different ratio. That's what sets his blends apart. Here's what convinced me this blend has a reputation among people who'd know. I had gone to my first Pipe Club meeting. Everyone brings many tins. I think I brought a dozen or 13 or 14 to share. So we're going through multiple bowls in an evening, and the gentleman sitting next to me, who turned out to be a prominent pipe maker, had brought one tin, and it was Ellipsis Flake. In Ellipsis, the Izmir doesn't play as prominent a role as it does in Sun Bear. So Sun Bear is Virginia's, Orientals, and honey, so the melange here puts less emphasis on the Izmir. It's less a central player and more of a component of a greater orchestra than a member of a duet. Still beautiful in both cases, just serving different purposes. GLPs, his blends have a cult following that I'm unsure I'm not a part of. The blends are actually really good, and Ellipsis Flakes is one of them. I'm excited to have a reason to go through all my open tins of Pease blends and the unopened ones. Each one is a surprise, each one is really different despite all using the same ingredients. It's just the different ratios that make them really special. For the room note, I'd normally get my wife to tell me how this smells. She doesn't smoke, so she's my metric, but she's asleep. I took notes previously and I'd uploaded this to puffin.reviews. The exact note is, and I quote, a bit much, which probably means it smells like cigarettes to her, and I'm okay with that. But it reiterates that there's likely not a topping on this, that it really is a byproduct of the Perique. In the last third, it's still fruity, which is amazing. Usually by that point, things have kind of moved into dangerous territory. It's just more nuanced. The bowl does change, and it changes gradually. It's not an unwanted change. It brings nuance and complexity. It makes this interesting to smoke the whole way down. Nicotine, probably medium. I'm a bad judge of that, but given this has Perique, which has higher bioavailability, and Burley, which has higher content generally, I'd expect it to give a kick to someone not used to nicotine. Worth being cautious about. Strength of flavor isn't that robust. It's complex, but it isn't going to nuke your mustache hairs. It's a fruit punch. The components play really well together, and they all need to be there to make this Ellipsis Flake. So, the debate about whether this contains rum. There's a paper from 2005 by Leffingwell and Alford titled Volatile Constituents of Perique Tobacco. It was published in the Electronic Journal of Environmental, Agricultural, and Food Chemistry. What they do is they take Perique and suspend a 10x trap over it for 28 hours. That's a porous polymer that kind of picks up any molecules coming off of the leaf, and then they run it through GCMS. And what they find is that isoamyl alcohol is 32.8% of the detected volatiles. That's a fusel alcohol. The paper's own odor descriptor for it is alcoholic, winey, brandy on dilution. So the Perique is producing a lot of these volatiles, specifically alcohols, and that may well be what we're smelling. There's more. The Perique is fermented in whiskey barrels, and in the paper they find cis-oak lactone, which the authors attribute to the barrel used in the high-pressure fermentation. So you're getting some of that whiskey barrel in this blend purely from how the leaf was fermented. What it doesn't explain is why it's so pronounced here versus another blend with Perique in it. Like Bayou Morning, to me, generally smells like blue cheese and vinegar. This does not. It's sweet by comparison. Same component, but completely different result, probably because of the ratios. And C&D's exclusive is genuinely sinus clearing in a way this never is. So whatever's happening in the tin note here, it has Perique in it, isn't a sufficient explanation on its own. And there are weaknesses in the paper, so the methodology really only explains the tin note and not the smoke. We'd also need a negative control or a blend with a consensus that it has none of that fermented character and still contains Perique. If you've smoked Bayou Morning or exclusive, chime in, please. Drop your reviews in puffin.review so everyone can benefit from your analysis. And I'll link the paper in the description. It's one of the shortest scientific papers I've come across. The text is limited and most of it is a table of the compounds they detected. So who is this blend for? Genuinely, this could be for anyone. My only hesitance is giving it to someone who doesn't really handle nicotine well, and my judgment there is warped. So this is excellent for someone who likes vapors. You have a baseline of what a vapor should be, and this adds to it complexity, nuance, and more shifts within the bowl as you go. And if you like sweet blends, yes. If you like straight Virginias but hate Perique, I'd be hesitant. The Perique isn't completely central here, but it's present. You can tell it's there and you can't pretend it isn't. Taking a breath in through your nose, you'll understand there's Perique in this. It's unmistakable. So blends people compare to this are generally similar, but less tart and less citrusy. What comes to mind is Leave It and Pierce Navy Flake, which is similar, but again, less citrus and less sourdough. Or Peterson Deluxe Navy Rolls, one of the sweetest blends I've ever had. Sweeter than this, and nowhere near as tart or citrusy. McBaron Dark Twist Roll Cake, again similar with less of that acidic nature. And that's not a bad thing. I think the complexity is what adds to Ellipsis Flake specifically. So is it worth the price? 100%. This is something I'll keep with me year round, and I feel lucky it's constantly available. That's a gift to pipe smokers. You're getting the same complexity that you would with a vapor or a navy flake, with more nuance and that change throughout the bowl. I genuinely think this is an elevated vapor for people who enjoy them, and I would choose this over Sun Bear easily. This is a bowl that you really don't want to end. So thank you to everyone who subscribed recently, especially the first 9 who watched the entire development process. It really means a lot. I'll have the flavor profiles of this blend as well as the others on puffin.reviews. There will be another poll soon. If you want to see a specific review, leave it in the comments and I'll get to it. There's a strong chance I already have it, open or cellared. And if you're here from the Sun Bear video and want the other side of that comparison, the reviews playlist is where they all live.